The Battle of Šibenik, also known as the September War, was an armed conflict fought between the Yugoslav People's Army, supported by the Croatian Serb-established Serbian autonomous Oblast of Krajina, and the Croatian National Guard, supported by the Croatian Police. The battle was fought to the north and west of the city of Šibenik, Croatia on 16–22 September 1991, during the Croatian War of Independence. The JNA's initial orders were to relieve Croatian siege of the barracks in the city and isolate the region of Dalmatia from the rest of Croatia. The JNA's advance was supported by the Yugoslav Air Force and the Yugoslav Navy. Fighting stopped following a Croatian counter-attack that pushed the JNA back from the outskirts of Šibenik. Although some ground was lost to the Yugoslavs, especially around the town of Drniš, northeast of Šibenik, the ZNG captured several JNA and Yugoslav Navy facilities in the city, including dozens of Navy vessels and several coastal artillery batteries. The captured batteries were used to support defense of the city. The JNA Šibenik garrison was evacuated following an agreement between the Croatian officials and the JNA, except for several comparably small JNA posts in the city which were captured by the ZNG. The September to October fighting caused 3 Croatian military and 7 civilian deaths, as well as more than 100 wounded. JNA bombarded Šibenik, causing damage to numerous structures, including the Cathedral of St. James, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The New York Times judged the bombardment to be a part of calculated assaults on the heritage of Croatia. Artillery bombardment of the city continued over the following 100 days. The battle is commemorated in Šibenik each year. Background: in 1990, following the electoral defeat of the government of the Socialist Republic of Croatia, ethnic tensions worsened. The Yugoslav People's Army confiscated Croatia's territorial defense weapons to minimize resistance. On the 17th of August, tensions escalated into an open revolt of the Croatian Serbs, centered on the predominantly Serb-populated areas of the Dalmatian hinterland around Nin, parts of the Lika, Kordun, Banovina and eastern Croatia, largely fueled by recollections of the Serbs of the genocide to which they had been subjected in the independent state of Croatia during World War II, and the resultant unwillingness to be minorities in an independent Croatia. After 2 unsuccessful attempts by Serbia, supported by Montenegro and Serbia's provinces of Vojvodina and Kosovo, to obtain the Yugoslav presidency's approval of a JNA operation to disarm Croatian security forces in January 1991, and a bloodless skirmish between Serb insurgents and Croatian Special Police in March, the JNA itself, supported by Serbia and its allies, asked the federal presidency to give it wartime authorities and declare a state of emergency. The request was denied on the 15th of March, and the JNA came under control of Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic. Milosevic, preferring a campaign to expand Serbia rather than preservation of Yugoslavia, publicly threatened to replace the JNA with Serbian army and declared that he no longer recognized the authority of the federal presidency. The threat caused the JNA to gradually abandon plans to preserve Yugoslavia in favor of expansion of Serbia. By the end of the month, the conflict had escalated to the first fatalities. The JNA stepped in, supporting the insurgents and preventing Croatian police from intervening. In early April, leaders of the Serb revolt in Croatia declared their intention of integration of the area under the control, viewed by the government of Croatia as a breakaway region with Serbia. In the beginning of 1991, Croatia had no regular army. In an effort to bolster its defense, Croatia doubled police personnel to about 20,000. The most effective part of the force was 3,000 special police, deployed in 12 battalions adopting military unit organization. In addition, there were 9,000–10,000 regionally organized reserve police. The reserve police were set up in 16 battalions and 10 companies, but the reserve force lacked weapons. In May, the Croatian government responded by forming the Croatian National Guard, but its development was hampered by a United Nations arms embargo introduced in September 1991. Prelude. By late June and throughout July, northern Dalmatia saw daily armed skirmishes but no actual combat. Nonetheless, the increasing intensity of the conflict in the region and elsewhere in Croatia led to the preparation of bomb shelters in Zadar by city officials. Serbian autonomous Oblast of Krajina authorities called up 3 territorial defense units in the Zadar hinterland on the 11th of July, one day after another fatal shooting of a Croatian police patrol in the Zadar area, while the JNA 9th Corps conscripted the local Serb population in Benkovac to strengthen its ranks by the end of the month. In late July, a paramilitary group, led by Miro Berzic and formerly subordinated to the Croatian Ministry of Defense, conducted several sabotages in the Benkovac area. On the 1st of August, Croatia deployed 2 battalions of the ZNG 4th Guards Brigade to Krasivo near Obrovac. 2 days later they engaged in combat against the Sao Krajina territorial defense and police forces, marking the first such engagement of the Croatian War of Independence in the region. On the 26th of August, the JNA 9th Corps openly sided with the Sao Krajina forces as they jointly attacked Kijevo, expelling all Croats from the village. Another significant setback for Croatia in the region was JNA capture of the Maslenica Bridge on the 11th of September, that severed the last overland road link between Dalmatia and the rest of Croatia. On 11 to 13 September, an attack in the area of Skradin cut water and power supply to Šibenik. On the 14th of September, the ZNG and the Croatian police blockaded and cut utilities to all JNA facilities located in Croatian-controlled territory. Beginning the Battle of the Barracks, the move blockaded 33 large JNA garrisons in Croatia and numerous smaller facilities, including border posts, weapons and ammunition storage depots. The blockade forced the JNA to amend its planned campaign in Croatia to accommodate the new development. The same day, a coastal artillery battery on the Zerj island was captured by Croatian forces after JNA Senior Sergeant Selko Baltic, battery commanding officer, switched his allegiance. The battery consisted of 12 Ansaldo 90-53 guns which were once armament of the Italian battleship Vittorio Veneto. Order of battle. The JNA's planned campaign included an advance in the Šibenik area by the 9th Corps, which was tasked with isolating Dalmatia from the rest of Croatia. As it was fully mobilized and prepared for deployment, the Corps began operations against the ZNG on the 16th of September. Its main axis of attack was directed at Vodci, with supporting advances towards Zadar, DRNIs and SINJ. The push was designed to create favorable circumstances to attack Zadar, Šibenik and Split, with support from a corps-level battalion of M84 tanks and the Sao Krajina Territorial Defense. The JNA 221st Mechanized Brigade was committed to the main axis of the attack. The secondary advance towards Belgrade Namoru on the right flank was assigned to the 180th Mechanized Brigade, supported by the armored battalion removed from the 221st Brigade. The 557th Mixed Anti-Tank Artillery Regiment and the Krajina Territorial Defense. Offensive support was provided by the 9th Mixed Artillery Regiment and the 9th Military Police Battalion. The 221st Brigade was commanded by Colonel Borislav Thukic. Elements the 46th Partisan Division, drawn from the 24th Corps, also provided support for the Corps. The JNA garrison in Šibenik barracks included the 11th Marine Infantry Brigade, one of a handful of units regularly maintained at full combat readiness. In opposition to the JNA, the ZNG 113th Infantry Brigade, commanded by Milivoje Petković, defended the city of Šibenik together with police forces, under overall control of the Šibenik Crisis Center headed by Josip Juris. The 4th Battalion of the 113th Infantry Brigade, commanded by Josip Jukic, as well as the 4th Battalion of the 4th Guards Brigade, commanded by Ivan Zelic, defended the DRNI's area, 25 kilometers northeast of Šibenik, supported by a company of police. The 600-strong 4th Battalion of the 4th Guards Brigade represented the strongest ZNG unit in the area, while the JNA is estimated by Croatian sources to have deployed approximately 1,500 troops against DRNIs. On the 20th of September, all Croatian combat troops in DRNI's area were subordinated to Luka Vujic. The western bank of the Krka River and approaches to Vodci were controlled by the 3rd Battalion of the 113th Infantry Brigade, while small arms were sufficient to arm a part of the battalion at a time. The battalion did not have any heavy weapons. Timeline. The offensive commenced at 1600 on the 16th of September. On the left flank, the JNA advanced towards DRNIs, capturing the villages of Malkovo and Krika, and interdicting the DRNI's split, east of the Krka River. On the opposite riverbank, the JNA advanced towards Vodci and Šibenik, threatening the city from the west. Reaching the western side of the 390-meter Šibenik Bridge on the Adriatic Highway, the advance was so rapid it cut off the 1st Company of the 3rd Battalion of the ZNG 113th Infantry Brigade from the rest of the ZNG force. That day, the ZNG captured a 100mm coastal artillery battery near village of Zekiv. By the 17th of September, the commanding officer of the JNA 9th Corps, Major General Vladimir Vukovic, modified the initial deployment plan, because of strong resistance offered by the ZNG and the Croatian police, relying on populated areas and terrain features to hold back the JNA forces north of Vodci. The changes involved diverting a part of the force to attack DRNIs and SINJ directly, while the remainder of the attacking force rested. The Yugoslav Navy started a blockade of Šibenik and the entire Croatian Adriatic coast. On the night of 17-18 September, the JNA was ordered to trap and destroy the ZNG force in DRNIs and the Miljevci Plateau area, while holding positions achieved elsewhere. In the morning, the JNA resumed its offensive towards Vodci on the right flank of the attack, while the ZNG abandoned DRNIs and pulled back to village of Unizik. On the 19th of September, the ZNG captured a 88mm JNA coastal artillery battery on the Smokvica Island and the Krajina barracks near Rogasnica. Weapons retrieved from the captured barracks. A shipment received from Gospic following capture of JNA facilities in the town, as well as use of the captured artillery pieces, significantly improved ZNG's capabilities. The JNA advance south from DRNIs was effectively halted that day, following 3 successful ambush attacks by the ZNG in Unizik, Parkovo Selo and south of Zidnik. The JNA orders were changed again on the 20th of September, when the JNA 9th Corps orders were supplanted by the Military Maritime District Order, issued by Vice Admiral Mile Kandik, for the Corps to reorient the JNA force north of Vod Sea towards Šibenik and Split. This required crossing the Šibenik Bridge spanning the Krka River. The eastward advance, with close air support from the Yugoslav Air Force, failed, and cost the Air Force 4 aircraft shot down by the ZNG. On the 22nd of September, a Croatian counter-attack, supported by recently acquired artillery, pushed back the JNA from the bridge by 10 o'clock, extending the ZNG-controlled bridgehead to the area of Gasilezi, 9 kilometers to the northwest. 4 guns of the Zerj battery were used as anti-tank guns in support of the counter-attack. On the 22nd of September, the Croatian forces captured the JNA Kulin barracks in Šibenik itself, along with the 15 Yugoslav Navy vessels based there. In addition, 19 vessels undergoing various stages of overhaul were captured in the Velomir-Skorpić shipyard. The ships, comprising approximately a quarter of the Yugoslav naval assets, included Vlado Cvetković Končar-class fast attack craft, later on Velomir-Skorpić OSA-class missile boat, Partizan II Shershon-class torpedo boat, and Biokovo, CER and Dalmatia-class patrol boats. On the 23rd of September, the JNA fully secured DRNIs and its surroundings. At the same time, it shifted its focus to the Battle of Zada, away from Šibenik. The Yugoslav naval blockade was lifted unilaterally the same day, even though a number of JNA facilities in the city were captured by the ZNG. Several major JNA posts remained in Šibenik. Those included Rade Končar barracks housing the 11th Marine Infantry Brigade, Anti-Jonaj barracks, Miniska depot where naval mines were stored, Jamnik depot, and the Krajina artillery battery containing confiscated Croatian territorial defense weapons, and Duboka fuel storage. The Duboka depot consisted of 3 1,410,000-litre storage tanks. Aftermath: the JNA was defeated in the battle, subsequently nicknamed the September War. Its total losses in the battle were not reported. The ZNG and the Croatian police sustained losses of 3 killed and 49 wounded troops in the battle. At the same time, 7 civilians were killed and 64 wounded. JNA artillery continued intermittent bombardment of Šibenik over the following 100 days, resulting in further casualties and damage. The damaged structures included the Cathedral of St. James, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. An editorial in the New York Times labeled bombardment of the cathedral as a part of the calculated assaults on treasures of Croatia. During the fighting, electrical substations in Bilis and Konjsko were destroyed, disrupting electric power distribution in Dalmatia. Evacuation of the JNA facilities and surrender of the confiscated territorial defense weapons stored in the Šibenik Split area was agreed on 21 November. Throughout the process, tensions remained high, and the JNA made contingency plans to break through from into Šibenik and Split to relieve the siege of its forces there, codenamed Operation Coast 91 and Operation Hurricane 91 respectively. All of the JNA facilities in Šibenik, along with the confiscated territorial defense weapons, were handed over to the Croatian authorities by the 10th of December. News coverage of the battle produced television footage of ZNG air defense artillery at Zeka firing at a Yugoslav Air Force Soka J-21 Jasta band, scoring a hit on another J-21 using a guided missile. The footage ending in shouts claiming that both of the planes were downed. became one of the most significant pieces of material in terms of propaganda and morale in Croatia. Nonetheless, the footage proved controversial, since the first plane is not shown falling to the ground or into the sea, but diving towards the horizon after giving away a puff of smoke, variously interpreted as smoke caused by the plane's cannon fire or anti-aircraft fire damage. While the first J-21 downing remains unconfirmed, the second J-21, piloted by Croat Valter Jerzic of the 240th Fighter Bomber Aviation Squadron, was shot down by Neven Levajic using a 9K-38 IGLA, and wreckage of the plane was retrieved. Another controversy which arose in the aftermath of the battle pertains to the Zerge Island Coastal Artillery Battery. Extent of the role played by the battery was disputed between Brigadier General Rahim Adami, who claimed the bridge was beyond range of the guns, and 13 ZNGN police officers who held various posts in Šibenik at the time, who claimed Adami was wrong in his assessment. After the war, the guns were removed from Zerge. As of 2010, 2 were refurbished in preparation for return to Zerge as museum exhibits. The battle is commemorated annually in Šibenik each September. There are 2 documentary films covering Šibenik and its surroundings during the battle. My City Will Be Happy Too by Mate Saric and September War 1991. Šibenik Vod Se by Sim Strikoman.